What's up, board fam? Eric here, and we are going to be watching Nerdrotic's proper review, his separate review video, just him talking about Spider-Man Brand New Day. Now, I want to say I've tried to avoid putting big spoilers in videos over the last few days, and this one, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, so tread lightly watching this. I will cut out as much of the boring recapping of the movie as I can. I don't care about subjective opinions, things like that. That's his own opinion about it. I don't mind that. What I'm looking for, as always, is bad faith, misinformation, disinformation, culture war, brain rot shit that these guys say and do, like outrage, conflict marketing, trying to pit this movie against something else, trying to pit Sony against Disney, even though they work together on the film. You know, all the things I typically look for. But I do want to put out a general warning about spoilers. I don't know how much of it I'm going to have to leave in here to make my point. So let's go ahead and jump into Nerdrotic's review of Spider-Man Brand New Day.
Greetings, you over 1 million hellions and the 40% who haven't subscribed yet. The return of everyone's favorite webhead to the silver screen is upon us. But before we get to that, let's take a little trip down memory lane to the very forgettable year of 2021, when the world was still recovering from a totally not man-made uber cold.
On the advice of counsel.
Not going to take the bait on this one. Not going to take the bait.
So I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
And Hollywood was just getting back after spending a year shut down. And that included Disney-Marvel's box office juggernaut, the MCU, particularly coming off their last two films, Endgame, which grossed over $2 billion, and the end of Phase 3, Spider-Man Far From Home, which grossed $1.1 billion. Unfortunately, this year would be the first signs of real trouble for the MCU and the start of the infamous MCU. Phase 4 started with Black Widow.
So here we go. Like, we're not even into the fucking review yet. We're not even into the review, and it's just him talking about culture war shit. We haven't even gotten to the point where we're talking about the Spider-Man movie that he just saw. We're spending a lot of the beginning of this video padding everybody with all of this nonsense, MCU stuff. We can't just get into the fucking review and talk about the movie. It's got to be this kind of shit before. This is what I'm talking about. They're like, the entire platform of their channels is built on this. They can't even just talk about the fucking movie. Can we please get to the review of Brand New Day?
Prequel about a dead character, a film so abysmal, I would argue it would have flopped.
What does Black Widow have to do with any of this? What does the Black Widow movie have to do with any of this? The success failure of this movie has nothing to do with Spider-Man Brand New Day.
Anyway, but since it was released day and date, it led to the film's star, Scarlett Johansson, suing Disney-Marvel. But its worst crime of all, it introduced Yelena.
So you're now saying that because Yelena had a total of 3 minutes in Brand New Day, it's fair to talk about how poorly Black Widow performed during a pandemic. Got it. Real big brain shit here.
Something that will be important for this review. This was followed up with Shang-Chi and the Legend of the 10 Bracelets, featuring Simu Liu getting kicked in the balls. Then poor Simu Liu got kicked in the balls again when it was announced that the absolute triumph that was Shang-Chi would get a sequel that never happened. A film
hasn't happened yet. They literally talked about this last week and said it's still in active development. Destin talked about this. But why are we shitting on Shang-Chi? Wasn't a bad movie.
Directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, which will also be important for this review. But hey, Simu, look on the bright side. You got to star in Doomsday along with 47 other people, and I'm sure that promised sequel is right around the corner.
So now we're going to throw shade at him because he's in a Avengers movie with a bunch of Avengers. But that criticism doesn't get applied to any of the other guys in the Avengers. It just baffles me that people tune in to listen to this dumb shit. It really, honestly, I'm very baffled. Why do you tune in to listen to it? If you're a Nerdrotic fan, which seems crazy to even say that, but if you're a Nerdrotic fan, why do you watch this? I mean, are you really that starved for content that you can't just put on something you like in the background, that you have to listen to somebody just talking about culture war shit? Like legitimately.
And the third film released in 2021 was The Eternals, a film
Okay, hold on. We're not going to do this. Where is the Spider-Man brand? Like, where are we at here? Okay, there we go. Maybe now we'll get to it. Let's see.
The MCU was going to turn things around because 2025 didn't work out so well, and they are going to start it with the Sony film, Spider-Man Brand New Day. Now, keeping in mind that my take on the box office...
By the way, did you catch that? They're starting with a Sony film. Did you guys catch that? Even though we know and have known for a while that Sony has nothing to do with the creative of the movies. The failure of Amazing Spider-Man, the second one, told them that they needed to reach out to the company that was making hit movies with these characters, which was Marvel. When they made the agreement was that Marvel and Marvel's creative team would handle all of the stuff going on in the Spider-Man movies. And Sony would handle marketing, financing, all of those things up to 75%. Marvel would pick up the other 25%, and in exchange, they get to use Spider-Man in some of their films. This was like the core part of this deal. And of course, Marvel gets merchandising. So all of that exists in this space. Like, we know that. It's not a secret. It's not a mystery. It's all, literally, you can look it up online. But he has to go, oh, but it was a Sony movie. This is the same thing all of these dumb fucks are doing on their channels. They're trying to convince people that Sony somehow contributes to the quality in the success of these films. And that's just not true. Sony has almost nothing to do with anything in the films in terms of quality other than being able to say yes or no to the final product. That's really what they do. They're yes or no people. That's why Amy Pascal is there.
Office juggernaut that is the Odyssey went against the vast majority of corporate critics and the vast majority of humanity. Here's my review.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
I wouldn't do that to you guys. Now on to the review. Spider-Man Brand New Day.
Who writes this hack shit? Who is the comedy writer for Nerdrotic that writes this dumb shit? Like, who's on the payroll to make up these like stupid jokes in their videos? They should not have a job.
Title that I absolutely loathe, but that has...
Well, by the way, actually, it's funny because they attack the MCU for having stupid, cringy humor, and then they do it themselves. So here we are.
Everything to do with the comics and nothing to do with the actual film is being...
There's been a lot of examples of titles of movies over the years taken from classic stories that do not follow those classic stories by the letter. But you cannot just talk about the movie's quality. It's always got to be some other argument, some other dumb fucking argument. Okay, you don't like the title. Fine, move on. I don't like the title because it doesn't do the exact same thing as the comic books. It's not really an argument. It's part of a storyline that people didn't like anyway. Okay, so I had to jump through a big chunk of this video. It really is him just telling you beat for beat exactly what happens in the movie. That's all he does for probably 70% of this video. It's a lot of subjective stuff, silly jokes, dumb, bad humor that we get from Nerdrotic. Nothing really overly negative. It's mostly him talking about how much he enjoyed parts of the movie and things that he didn't like. Again, subjective stuff that just, I'm not interested in debunking somebody's subjective opinion, right? I wouldn't do that. But I will say, at the very least, this movie is doing so well, it's almost impossible for them to go after it. Not the way they want to. And this spells doom for their channels. I'll talk more about that once we hear the last bit of his video here, because you'll get to see after he goes through 75% of this video being somewhat, I don't know, positive about the movie, I guess you could say. We get to the end and he's going to dive right back into the stuff that he normally does. He's trying to play like 2021, 2022, MCU Nerdrotic. Here we go.
If it wasn't for that, this film would have been a 9 out of 10 for me, but instead it's a 7.5 out of 10. And it has everything to do with how I feel about this being a Spider-Man movie. This is the movie for me where Tom Holland embodied the character and I couldn't see anybody else playing him now. And it's the closest MCU Sony film to capture the essence or the vibe, as the kids say.
MCU Sony film. We're still doing that.
of the comic books I read up until Disney bought Marvel Comics and completely ruined them. And I might
there we go. Like this is their playbook. They can't get the outrage out of the actual movie because it is too well received. It is undeniably a success. Again, like Odyssey, it's undeniably a success. So we have to go back to the old drawing board. We have to go back to attacking Disney and Marvel. And look, by the way, I hate to pull this card, but the MCU is the most successful franchise in movie history. It's the most successful one by a huge margin. A huge margin. 85% of the movies that come out from the MCU are box office successes. They have some that underperform. They've had a couple of flops, but they're primarily making box office hit films. And when I say large margin, we're talking like $20 and $30 billion difference between them and other really popular franchises. It is the most successful franchise in the world. The fact that these guys keep telling their audience that there's something wrong with it and that it sucks, blah, 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 et cetera, it's really kind of laughable when you zoom out and you actually look at the overall success of the MCU, which is how Disney looks at it. They look at it as a full package. So when they go in and they pluck out things that aren't working, they're not doing that because they think the whole MCU sucks or that every decision sucks. They pluck something out because they think it could work better without that thing. So stupid.
I like this film a little bit more than No Way Home because I'm liking it for Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Don't get me wrong, Tobey is still the GOAT. And maybe pump the brakes on calling it the greatest Spider-Man movie ever made because we all know that Spider-Man 2 and
it's subjective. When people say they love, like, I would never argue with somebody like, oh, you have to like Spider-Man 2. It's the greatest Spider-Man movie ever made. You can't say another Spider-Man movie is the greatest movie because there's an objective reason why Spider-Man 2 is the best movie. Like, you can't do that. That's just dumb. It's just fucking stupid.
the discussion is over. Because with that film's villain, Dr. Octopus, while they did make him much nicer than he was in the comics, his redemption came when he realized he did wrong, although it was an AI taking over his brain, sacrificing his life to save millions of people, unlike Jean Grey. But I have to stress that I like Sadie Sink in the role, essentially playing Max again from Stranger Things. The thing that really works the most for me in this film is it hits all the emotional beats. They're not cheesy, they're not saccharine, they're meaningful. And for a superhero film, I think it does a pretty good job capturing what it's really like to be isolated and lonely, something we've all felt at one point in our lives. Sure, Spider-Man is...
I mean, you're probably feeling that right now, right? Just saying.
Surrounded by millions of people, where in the last movie they hated him and now they love him, but they have no idea who he is. Yes, he does talk to people like Gene DeWolf or his AI Evie, but there's no real personal connection. And he obviously wasn't going to make any new friends because he would be potentially putting them in danger too. But don't get me wrong, this isn't a mopey, amazing Spider-Man. They actually balance it with a lot of fun. Hell, we get to see Spider-Man and the Punisher fight the Hulk. The one thing I appreciate about Spider-Man Brand New Day, whether you loved it, just liked it, or absolutely loathed it, we can have a normal nerd discussion about it. Sure, as I said, there's a little girl boss scene with Yelena, and again, there is the misunderstood, victimized female antagonist, but...
Like, so you pick a woman in the movie for like just a split second, and she's a girl boss that affects the quality of the movie. She's in the movie for just like maybe 2 minutes total, 3 if you're pushing it. And like, you're going after the main woman in the movie with Sadie Sink's Jean Grey. You're going after the main one. And there is criticism of her Jean Grey. I'm going to talk about it on my Eric's Reloaded channel. There is criticism of her Jean Grey. But you're calling her like this cookie cutter, victimized woman antagonist, I guess cookie cutter, copy paste character. She's not that. Even with the criticism I have of her character in the movie, she's not a copy of another character that we already have. So you're doing this to lean in because you know, Gary knows that there is criticism about Sadie Sink in this movie. He knows that. But he also knows that this gives him a little bit of breathing room to attack the movie with his normal anti-woman shit. Like, this gives him a little bit of that breathing room. He's like, Yelena's fair game because he knows that his audience doesn't like Yelena. So it makes it super easy. Plus, she's not really massively important in the movie. But then you have Sadie Sink as Jean Grey. He's like, oh, there are people who don't really like the portrayal of her as Jean Grey. So it makes it really easy for me to go further than just talking about whether or not I like the portrayal to attacking her for being a victimized woman in a movie. It's really pathetic.
They don't spend the entire film shitting on the main character, like, for example, Doctor Strange Mom or like Superman. And
there we go. We cannot do a review of a movie that we enjoyed without getting a little, like some jabs in to other movies. We're going all the way back to Multiverse of Madness. We're going all the way back there. You couldn't pick a more recent example? Okay. And then we're jumping over to Superman. It's like we can't just talk about the movie. You just said you can have fun nerd discussions about this, and then you immediately jump to culture war brain rot conversation. It's like you don't even take a breath between the two things. Oh, we don't have to argue and fight about this anymore. But by the way, let's argue and fight about this. It's crazy.
Thankfully, and I look forward to never having to bring this up again, but we know that's not exactly going to happen. We don't have to waste any time talking about the message. Hey, it looks like you can make a black guy the villain again. Maybe in the next film, we can have some female accountability.
You know what's funny is if we're talking strictly about comic books and comic book media, there are black men that are featured as villains, but that doesn't fit their narrative, right? It doesn't fit their narrative that we have characters like Black Manta, played by a black man, Killmonger, who is a black guy, Tombstone in this movie is a black man, the Prowler from the Spider-Verse movies, the villain in Brave New World outside of Red Hulk was a black man. The Gladiator 2, which wasn't a huge hit, also had black men as villains. So it's just, he talks about the message, right? It doesn't have the message. Well, you're pushing a message right now. You're literally pushing a message with this kind of like propaganda shit and culture war shit. That there's no prominent black villains in movies anymore. I could sit here and name a bunch of them. Those are just the ones that I had off the top of my head.
Despite any of my issues, I like the film quite a bit. I've seen it twice. It got better for me on the second viewing. Gonna see it a third time, and I'm definitely gonna buy the 4K Steelbox Special Edition. Word of mouth on this film is insane, and it's killing it at the box office. But the added bonus with Spider-Man Brand New Day is by Friday, technically its third day, it's already outgrossed Supergirl's worldwide.
There we go. This is what I'm saying, fam. This is what I'm saying. They can't just talk about how they feel about Spider-Man Brand New Day. This is the difference between culture war content and legitimate movie criticism. There's targeted films and targeted actors, targeted races, targeted genders in these videos. There was a big chunk in the middle of the 75% of this video where he tried his best to impersonate a real critic when you watch someone who's a legitimate movie reviewer. People who are out here trying to do their job to tell you whether or not they enjoyed a movie and if they have a recommendation, like they want you to go out and support it for some reason. Everything that's happening at the end of this video is the same old Nerdrotic stuff packaged in a way that makes it seem like it's relevant to Spider-Man Brand New Day. This is not relevant to Spider-Man. It has nothing to do with the success of the movie. It means nothing. It is just them shitting on Supergirl because they don't want to shit on Spider-Man. It's doing too well. It's them shitting on Marvel, shitting on Disney by using Sony, a company that put out trash Venomverse movies. But somehow they managed to always do well with the Spider-Man movies. That's crazy. It's almost like it's not them in the actual creative process of Spider-Man.
Box office total. And by the end of the weekend, it might have outgrossed the entirety of James Gunn's DCU.
What the fuck does that have to do with Spider-Man Brand New Day? Nothing.
And let's keep it going. By its second weekend, it could possibly outgross Captain African American, Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four first.
Again, the Black Captain America, Captain African American, it's low-hanging fruit. This is why I wanted to show you guys this video. Anybody that comes in my comment section is like, oh no, they like movies. Go look at their channel. They'll review stuff they love all the time. Is this love? Is this love for Spider-Man Brand New Day? Is that what this is? By talking about all of these other movies they don't like? Unrelated to anything that they're discussing in terms of quality for Brand New Day? Does it have anything to do with the criticism of Brand New Day? No, it has nothing to do with any of that. This is them talking to their base. The review is unnecessary. I've said this before. Their audience doesn't care if they actually review a movie. Nerdrotic could go out, watch Spider-Man Brand New Day, never put a review out, and just talk about culture war stuff, and his viewers would be totally okay with that. If the whole video was this, they'd be totally okay with that. They don't care about what he actually thinks about the quality of the movie.
Steps combined, and that's a good thing. So it looks like, once again, we have the answer of fighting superhero fatigue. Since Endgame...
Superhero fatigue isn't real. People within your own community can't seem to come to a consensus on it. It's not a real thing.
Only films that have crossed $1 billion are an aging Hugh Jackman with respect in a Deadpool movie and Spider-Man movies. 3 of them to be exact. And without a doubt, Spider-Man is the most popular superhero.
So let me see. Wolverine in the X-Men franchise, Hugh Jackman, one of the most popular characters. Deadpool, which has always been popular, always did well with his movies. And Spider-Man, the most popular character in the world, has managed to do better than films that contain niche characters and new IPs. That's really interesting.
In the world, which makes it a shame that the only place he's really not turning any numbers right now is in the comics. But as far as those rumors of Sony selling Spider-Man back to Disney are concerned, I'm not saying it would never happen, but I would also argue that Disney would have to pay more for just the Spider-Man film rights than they did for all of Marvel. No, Spider-Man Brand New Day is not the best Spider-Man movie ever made. Let's not be prisoners.
That's subjective.
Of the moment, but it is one of the better ones, and it's worth the trip to the theater. While it does have issues and lacks complexity while being busy, it makes up for that with having a lot of heart and heroism. And the heart and soul of this film is one Tom Holland, whose performance is both spectacular and amazing.
See, how hard was that? How hard was it to just talk about the actual movie and ignore all the other brain rot stuff? It's not really that difficult, but let me tell you guys why they're doing this and why they're in the position they're in, okay? Let me explain to you guys why that is. They don't have anything else at the moment. They have nothing. They're making videos about children of blood and bone. They're making racist fucking videos about a movie that they typically wouldn't even watch, wouldn't even be on their radar, has nothing to do with nostalgia from when they were younger, has nothing to do with classic comic books, classic animation, classic video games. It's a book that was written in 2018 by a black woman. So the story is completely original, completely separate from anything they care about, and they're still going after it because there's a little bit of drama with production between the writer and the team that made the movie. This movie doesn't come out until January of next year. Why the fuck are these guys even talking about it? Their audience doesn't care about this fucking IP. None of them care. They're not out here looking out for it, watching out for it, waiting on bated breath for this movie. Ryan Kennel has admitted that this is not a movie that he's going to go see, that he even cares about. He's not the target demographic of it. He made a whole fucking video about it. So they're doing this because there's literally nothing they're confident about flop watching for the rest of this year. Now, we do have Rings of Power. They're going to go after that if they haven't already. Clayface is probably going to be good. They can't virtue signal wokeness or any of that other bullshit in that movie. So they can't go after that. Lanterns is getting good early word of mouth. People that have seen some of it, or some people said they've seen all of it. Insiders saying it's a really good fucking show. Seems like they're not going to be able to go after that. Then we got in-game Encore, which, unless they're going to try and retroactively shit on in-game, I have no idea. Doomsday looks like it's selling. Pre-sales for that are already through the roof. Dune 3 is probably going to do really well. There's not a lot left for them this year. They really are like super, super worried that they're not going to be able to make content and shit on stuff the rest of this year. They might not tell you guys, but this tells me they're worried. The fact they're talking about Children of Blood and Bone now, August of this year, doesn't come out till January of next year. This would not even be something they would even discuss in their chat. Like, why would they even talk about this? But they're doing it because they have nothing else. So they're leaning in on their racist, sexist viewers and giving their racist, sexist viewers something to hate on, to fill that void of outrage content that they so desperately need to provide for their subscribers. This, to me, this is a bigger fucking waving the L flag than anything they can do in terms of like trying to start culture war between Disney and Sony and, you know, Sadie Sink. And like, it's a bigger scream from the void of like, we fucking failed than anything. Why the fuck are you talking about this? Gary, why are you talking about this? You have no dog in this fight. It's not something you even give a shit about. And here we are making racist fucking thumbnails still on YouTube. Who doesn't seem to care, doesn't give a shit that they're making racist thumbnails. Who cares, I guess, right? Who cares in 2026? Absolute bottom feeding. We love to see desperation. I don't like seeing racist shit. But it is good to know that they don't have a lot to talk about. That's always fun. I just want to show you guys again, peek behind the curtain of what these guys are doing, the way their content is moving. I did a video about Ryan yesterday where I expose him for lying, saying that he always thought Spider-Man Brand New Day was going to be good from the time it was announced. He made a video proving that he didn't say that when he was first talking about it. He talked about it being a flop based on some bullshit stuff going on behind the scenes, and then contradicted himself. So go check that video out if you haven't seen it. If you're brand new to my channel, please subscribe. Please leave a comment. Drop a like if you would. I'm trying to get to 10K ASAP. Thank you guys so much for being here, and we'll see you on a live stream. Take care.